Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Joyce Strom, and I'm the founder of Confident Women Consortium. Thank you for joining us tonight, and with our guest, Julie O'Brien, at the Groton Inn for this night of fun, dining together and sharing our what makes us confident or how we want to grow to be confident. Tonight, Julie's going to talk about stretch, which is 7 nuggets or principles that have to do with grabbing the reins, taking control of your life and career. So we're going to find out what those 7 secrets are, and from Julie's own experience. So again, I'm Joyce Strong from Total Well Coach. I'm nutrition education and coach, and founder of Confident Women Consortium, and also I'm the host of the Totally Well Show. And Julie, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Joyce. So let me just get my cheater thing here going. All right. So as Joyce said, this is a fun experience for me because I have friends who know me well enough to give me a hard time, but don't know everything about me. I have friends who have known me for a really long time, and friends I don't know yet, and I'm really excited to be here. And thank you so much. It's really a pleasure. It's kind of scary when somebody asks you to come talk about your life. Like many women, I'm not really good at boasting about what I've done or thinking that what I've done is worth talking about. But in hindsight, I've been doing a lot of writing in it, and I have reflected back and was like, yeah, okay, I've done some cool stuff in my life, so I'll kind of tell my story and see how it goes. Spoiler alert to Joyce's confident women moment. Not all confident women are confident all the time, and I think that we can all think about that a second, because I know a lot of people look at me like, you're so strong, you're so confident. It's like, well, yeah, not really. It's like when you open my drawers at my house, they're a mess, but my house is really neat. The same thing goes for me. So that is what the reality of this conversation will be. I'm also not a motivational speaker, but I do hope that this discussion will inspire some of you and motivate you to try some new things. I know Joyce asked me, Joyce is my wellness coach. She helped me lose a bunch of weight, which I've completely put back on, but that's okay. But I'm eating healthier, but I've changed the way I think about food and what I'm doing with my food, and feeling more guilty when I'm not exercising and all of that good stuff. She's an awesome coach. She really is. But there are a lot of people in my life who have done that. So I gave you these exercises. This is an experiment for me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my life, my journey, my career, my path, and I'm going to have, if you'll entertain me, have you do some reflections yourself. You don't have to go through you don't have time to go through all of them. Trust me, it takes a long time to go through your whole life. But if you can come out with one little nugget that's helpful, that'd be great. And it just makes me feel much better than just standing up here talking about myself. So that's probably good. Sorry, and I'm using this technology which isn't really behaving. Okay, let's see. Did it go? Okay. So I was at Kripalu a couple weeks ago because I really needed time to just be by myself and think for a couple nights. I just went for R&R, and it's a yoga retreat center in Western Massachusetts. The last time I was there was 20 years ago. And the biggest takeaway for me was that life is not linear. Life is not a ladder you climb, especially careers, to get ahead, which is what I'd always thought. Life is really this big journey. It's a big circle, and life is really good and life is really full when you can fill your circle with really cool stuff and things you're proud of. It's not necessarily about worrying about how everybody else makes it up the ladder, which was a big aha for me, as I was so worried about my LinkedIn profile and what people would be saying. I know it's my Facebook of the adulthood. So Harold, how many people know Harold and the Purple Crayon? Okay. So the book Harold and the Purple Crayon is this little kid, he walks around with this purple crayon, and as he's telling the stories like going through a city, and then it's just like life is a journey, and then next thing you know, Harold's drawing life with his purple crayon. So that's the story of Harold with a purple crayon, hence he drew his life. So this is me, this is little Julie at 2 years old. And we're going to come back to that moment for you, so you guys can start thinking about your first memory of you when you were little. But as I was growing up, I wanted to be a jockey. I wanted to be I loved horses because there was a neighbor down the street had these raucous little Shetland ponies where you just got onto and you held onto the side and you rode around. So I wanted to be a jockey. That's what I wanted to do with my life until I was in 6th grade and bigger than most jockeys, and I realized I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to do something else. But I still loved horses, and I mucked stalls, I braided horses, I did whatever I could to ride, and I eventually went off, rode for the University of New Hampshire, didn't like the University of New Hampshire, but transferred out to California to school and ended up in my junior year being a trainer with 60 horses in training with me as a junior in college, full-time professional equestrian doing jumpers. So that is me in the middle. So the point is I had this big dream that I wanted to be a jockey as a kid. Didn't get there, but I did accomplish something pretty cool. I also realized that I wasn't going to go to the Olympics. I didn't want to do this barn routine as a trainer. So I had to figure out what else I was going to do with my life. So like every other kid that grew up outside New York City, I went into finance, Fidelity. That's what you do, right? So I went to Fidelity, happened to meet my first husband there, and had fun for quite a few years. And then Fidelity, the market crashed, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. So we had been laid off, and I was a good writer. I loved horses. So I then went and did this, remember Harold and the Purple Crayon. I then went and did sports marketing for the World Cup Equestrian Festival. That was really cool, but I was gone for 10 months. Got engaged, got married, decided that I needed to do something else. So I got a job working in a coffee shop in Acton. It was at corner of 2A and 27. It was called The Daily Grind at that point. I was your little, if you remember, I was 25 years old. I was the little roaster in the front window roasting that coffee for you. If you were one of my customers, it's so nice to see you again. But that little journey into retail management was a pretty interesting move in my life because here I was at Fidelity. My dad was a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee, so I knew the coffee industry. Specialty coffee was just taking off. I was the only, besides George Howell at the Coffee Connection, the second roaster in Massachusetts. But while the coffee industry was taking off, my marriage was kind of crumbling, and I needed to make a change. I ended up getting divorced. I had a 10-month-old baby at that time named Sammy, and ended up needing to get a more secure position in my life. So called my dad, and he's like, I'll get you an interview at Dunkin'. Can't get you the job, but I'll get you the interview. So after 5 years in the specialty industry, I ended up at Dunkin' Donuts. Ended up taking off in my career there. I eventually went on to be the director of their entire coffee business, running a $1.2 billion business. And this is, just a kid who wanted to be a jockey. So my point is, I went with it. I went with the flow. I was having such a great time at Dunkin'. We were launching up culotta. Sorry, it's probably put a lot of calories on product. People, that was mine. That was one of mine. But there was a really critical point, and this is a thing where you can have somebody just ask you one question and it completely changes your life. And so, head of marketing for Dunkin's Coffee, we were going out on this PR trail to celebrate the taste buds of our buyer's tongue, which was clearly the news was slow that week. And the media consultant who was media training us said, what's Dunkin' Donuts' position on child labor in Guatemala? I'm like, what? I have no idea. And I'm on camera, like now, hi. He's like, you can't answer the question that way. You have to have a reason, or you have to have an answer. Well, we didn't have a policy. Dunkin' Donuts imported at that point 100 million pounds of coffee. We were one of the largest importers in the United States of coffee. And we had no social platform. This is 1998. None. We didn't know. Fair trade was just getting going. None of this was really happening. Starbucks was under attack. So. And we were told we were going to be next. So we ended up diving deep into kind of the role of corporations in social issues and environmental issues. We traveled to Oregon, met with the farmers, and I fell in love with these folks. And I'm like, I came back, I'm like, I can't sell culotta anymore. I need to do something different. Now, mind you, I'm a single mother, top of my game, speaking all over the world about coffee and all this kind of stuff. And I had, the good old 401k thing going. And I decided that I needed to change my life. I happened to be dating a guy who taught at Harvard at the time. He's like, well, you should apply to Harvard. I'm like, yeah, the girl who barely got a 3.0 in college. He's like, no, you should try. So I did, and I got in, which was shocking. But still, single mom, how am I going to pay for this? I had just, made a phone call to HR, took my 401k money and started funneling it into savings for grad school. And I went completely into debt, but I went. So that launched my career of international development, and which is the term for U.S. foreign assistance. Basically, a lot of the work that we did was with your taxpayer dollars, working with these large international development organizations in many, many countries. And for 10 years, I went back and forth to Afghanistan, which I'm very proud of, and the work that we did there. Most in global health was primarily the work that we were doing for management sciences for health. I've been to Haiti, Malawi, Nigeria, I don't know, all sorts of strange places. But it's not really, like when I got a chance to go to London, I was like, yes, I can go sleep in a nice hotel and not worry about bed bugs and all this kind of great stuff. But it's really amazing that the people you meet over there. So again, the point being is like, I was just little kid, wanted to be a jockey, ended up at Dunkin' Donuts because I got divorced, and all of a sudden I met a coffee farmer, fell in love, so I followed this path, Harold with a Purple Crayon, to graduate school in global health. I knew nothing about global health, but they wanted my marketing knowledge. That's why I was able to make that leap. So, and then fast forward, I've completely, I won't go into the details of what I've done, but the point is, you can fill your life with all these different things. I've consulted on and off for 5 years. I even went back to MSH until I went back there for 11 months, and then they laid all these people off, including me. I'm like, what did I just come back for? Which is hard, because you're like, all right, I just gave up. So life's a journey, and that's what Harold was telling us when he was drawing the Purple Crayon. And I finally, when I was at Kripalu, again, with the big circle, not this ladder that I was stressing out about, that I wasn't going up and up and up, that who's judging me, what is my LinkedIn profile going to say? I realized it doesn't matter. I'm just enjoying life. I'm doing the best I can. I'm so driven by impact, and that's what I've been doing. So that's my journey. Currently unemployed, because I did take a chance and joined a firm last year to launch this board diversification practice in the life sciences sector. I want to talk about left-hand turn. It was a hard turn. But the CEO was really convincing, and we were going to create this. Only 10% of all life science board positions are filled by women, and my social impact was like, okay, we're going to change that. But she and I had a difference of opinion on how long it would take to get to launching this business and what she really wanted me to be doing on a day-to-day basis, which I hated, so I resigned in December. My last day was February 1st. So maybe like many of you, I'm at that point in my life, like, what's next? What am I going to do next? I have this huge world out there, huge opportunity, and some great, cool experiences, and I'm going to keep filling up that big circle. Joyce?
Are you scared?
Totally. But I got some great advice. So part of going to this last organization, I met some amazing people, and one of them does all this leadership training. And she's like, Julie, you need to be vulnerable. I joined that last organization. They were recruiting. I don't know if anybody's a recruiter. God bless you for this lifestyle. They can make a lot of money. So I went chasing the money. I'm like, I've never made a lot of money in my life. And this woman's like, dangle, dangle, dangle. I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And I was miserable because it just wasn't in tune with me. But what Letizia said to me, she's this other woman who was there doing leadership. She's like, Julie, you need to just be vulnerable for once in a while. Stop, because I've always, from being single mom and whatever, and my husband's a political consultant, government kind of guy. I'm like, somebody's got to, have the steady income. But I wasn't giving my chance to really think about what I wanted to do. So now I'm really trying hard to be vulnerable and relying on other people and taking this time to really think about what I want to do next. And it's working. I have to say, I've been thinking more and more about me right now. So that's pretty cool and what I want to do. Not just having to take care of everybody else, but what do I want to do? And that's hard. And so I think maybe like a lot of you, whether you've been home for 15 years with your kids and thinking about what's next, the one thing I did say is I stopped thinking about like, what do I want to do with my life? It's like, stop thinking that way. What do I want to do next? What's a cool thing that I'll feel really good about, that I can fill this circle? Stop worrying about my ladder. Stop worrying about that linear line at the end of the day, you know, and just what do I want to do next to continue to fulfill my life and make me feel good?
I have another question, but you might need to repeat it.
Oh, yeah,
so they
sorry.
can hear it. What was your biggest takeaway from this hard right turn you made after?
Well, it's really what I learned about myself. Like I'm not good at maintaining things. Like you don't want to give me a project or a company or a team that's like, just continue to do this. This is our plan, you do this. I'm a builder, and that was not, I mean, the ultimate goal was I was supposed to be helping build this part of that company, but I was just maintaining another and it wasn't going to work for me. There's more to it, but I can get to those in the slides. But I would first want to have you guys just close your eyes for a second and think back to your adorable little Julie sitting in the sand or wherever you were. You may have been living in the mountains in Montana, or they have mountains there, right? Yeah, big sky. Living in the mountains or whatever it is. And just close your eyes and think about that for a moment, and think about when you were a little girl. And then I want you to think about your favorite trail that you walk along, and think of that little girl standing there with you, holding your hand and walking along with you down that trail for a little while. You might climb up a mountain or two, and then you're going to come to a fork in the trail, blue dot, yellow dot, trying to figure out which way you're going to go. And that little girl in your life is going to look up at you and go, at this point, how's it going for you? How full is your tank when it comes to work, to play, to love, to health? How full is your tank? And think about that for a second, what the conversation that you would be having with the little you, and what she would be saying about what you've grown, the woman you've become, and what you might say back to her. And you can think about that on your drive home too, because that's actually a really powerful conversation that somebody walked me through a while ago. But now I want you to just look at that yellow sheet in front of you, and the first thing's like a dashboard. And if you had to, and you don't have to share this, so if you want, you can keep this private to yourself, because I know this can be really hard. Or you can just, honestly, if you don't want to think about all of them right now because it's too much, just fill out one of them. And think about something that, where you are today. This is where you are. Think about and fill in on that dashboard with regards to you can color in the dashboard to you. Like if you want to think about yourself driving down the street and you've got a full tank or an empty tank, like if right now my work tank might be half full because I have had a really good, cruise, but I'm not sure where I'm going next or whatever it is. But this is a way to think about. And then the next thing I want you to think about is to pick one thing, and you say, to fill my tank in, say, play. By March 28th, 2020, so that's 1 year from today, my goal is to X. So I'd really like to learn how to play the guitar again. I used to be a hippie and play that. I can't play 4 chords now, but so that would be something for me that would make myself happier. I'd also like to ride horses again, but that's much more expensive, so I'm going to stick to the guitar for now. But think about something like that you'd want to do. And just write that down. Because this is the slide I was trying to get to. You're right here, right now. And that dashboard is you right now. And the only way to think forward, you have to start knowing where you are, and you have to be really honest with yourself on where you are, and thinking about what that would look like today if you had to answer that question, and then what ultimately we'd be doing moving forward. Okay, we don't have to dwell on that. While you're thinking about that, though, because I did miss something critical, which I do think is kind of fun. that's the joy over the last 15 to 17 years I've been able to have with all these different people around the world. Afghanistan, those planes, that was in Kandahar. And I was flying this World Food Program plane because it just does a circle through. I needed to get to Herat, which is on the Iranian border. And I just got on the plane like we were supposed to get on the plane because you don't think about this when you're development workers. And it was a UN World Food Program plane that just would do circles around Afghanistan all day long, dropping off development workers and then get back on the plane. But I was still sort of new to all this. And then when the lady came on the heads thing and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kandahar," I was like, okay, that's not where Kandahar is like it's one of the really bad sections of Afghanistan. So I was headed to Herat, which was not as bad a place in Afghanistan. So I just was like, wait a minute, I am definitely in the wrong place. And then the people next to me are like, no, it continues on. I'm like, phew, I must have gotten on the wrong plane in Afghanistan. That's not a good thing. Fortunately, it lands in the army base, but and the people literally rush on and off the plane and off they go again. It's just crazy. Anyway, so I just want to talk for a second here because we're going to get right to the next section, but I want to give kudos to the name Stretch, because at one point in my journey, when I was actually considering going and doing this left-hand turn into the board life science world, I was chatting with some very good friends of mine, Diane and Frank Pagula, who many of you know, and we were having a chat, and they're both physicians, so they're both doctors, so they kind of get this whole life science world. And I was saying, do I do it? Don't I do it? You always have to have trusted advisors. And Frank said to me, I'll never forget this, we're in Schweik. Frank said to me, "Julie, I'd be a little bit disappointed if you weren't trying to stretch yourself." It's like, excellent point. Like if I just kept it safe and just kept doing what I was doing, I wouldn't be pushing myself, I wouldn't be learning, I wouldn't be growing. And so I have to give Frank credit for the term stretch. So I love the word so much and the idea of living in your stretch zone and really growing. It's like, underpants, like if you grow too much, they eventually stretch out, but same with your mind, right? So if you keep pushing and expanding your mind and your spirit, it's the same thing will happen. So that's in essence what it is. We already did that exercise. So here's where, and I'm sorry if this is a little blurry for folks. Let me see if I can make it less blurry. Oh, there we go, that's better, huh? Okay. So this is a good lesson. It's like, S stands for start now. Stop worrying, stop waiting for perfect, stop stopping, and just start. And it doesn't have to be a big start, but when you think about it, for me, if I go back to my Duncan days when I was with loving the farmers, and I was, again, single mom, no reason to be thinking about I should quit this prime job, really secure, and go throw myself into debt into a whole new world, because I had a then 5-year-old or 6-year-old at the time. But I did. But the way I did it, the first thing I did to start was I called HR and said, "I'm thinking about graduate school. First, will you guys reimburse me?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay. Well, then can you move any money I'm saving in my 401k? Can you put it into just a savings account?" They're like, "Sure. Here are the forms," and I filled them out. And that's all it took for me to just start. And I was able to save some money. It wasn't even half the tuition, but at least it was something. And it committed me to say, I'm doing this. I'm going for it. I'm going to try it. And that's what I did. So that might just be a little thing to start. So if you look at your page, this other concept is in the next 100 days, what are just 10 things that you can do to start on your goal? Whatever, you can pick any of your dashboard things if you want to. I would just pick one, but think about 10 things that you can do. And if you get hung up on 10, just do 5, whatever it is. You can go back and finish the task. But I want you to take a few minutes to just think about that. What are some things that you can just do that you want to achieve by the next 100 days in order to just make that next move forward, get unstuck? All right, you can finish the list later, but it's a great thing to think about. It's a good, by the way, none of these are my original ideas. I've stolen these all out of books that I've read or what have you. So these are not my originals. But they're things that have actually helped me really think about it. Particularly that dashboard, it's really, I've seen it in other ways too, where it's like a diagram and then you connect the dots, and it's kind of interesting how certain things are lopsided. But I like we can all relate to, oh my God, I'm running out of gas, I still have to pick up the kids. And it's the same concept here with with the dashboard. But I loved this. Again, I was doing all this research on what I was going to say and how to say it articulately because I didn't think I could do that. But I read this somewhere. It's like, the last chapter of your life has not been written yet. It's like, that's pretty cool. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It matters what you're going to do right now. And that's actually good for folks who maybe have had some trouble and struggles, but it's also good for folks who maybe have had some success. It's like, you can't live on your laurels. Like, that's nice. Like, for me, it's like, it's nice that you ran Duncan's thing and you did all these cool things, but what are you going to do for me right now, today? And that's the living in the past. It's like, okay, that's good. That's part of your history, but you're here right now moving forward, and that's what you have to be thinking about. What do I need to do to start now? And this I love too, is it's your dream. And again, I worry about the word dream. I'm just worried about what's next for me at this point. I used to have these big grandiose dreams. And it's kind of weird that I don't have one right now. But if you do, it's great. But it's your dream. If you're going to want it to happen, you're going to have to go out and make it happen. Get up off your butt, for public television's reason, and get going. Nobody's going to hand it to you. And that kind of gets to the next one, which is about T is for taking, T is for the take, responsibility. But same thing, when I was single mom, my ex and I had a great relationship. He was contributing, but I still needed to work. I needed to take responsibility for my life and my job. I mean, we were young when we got divorced, so it wasn't, like anything. But I needed to step up, and I accepted where I was at that point. I said, this is my life. I got to figure it out and take responsibility for that and move forward. So that's what I did. And that only I could decide, that was the other thing, is it's responsibility for my life, my child's life. Only I could decide what that is. Only you can decide what. Don't give anybody else that power to decide what your life is going to be. I mean, clearly, if you're married and have kids, you got to kind of you have to have conversations about what you want to do, but don't let that stop you. I'm very fortunate. I have the most amazing husband right now who's so supportive of me and doing whatever I want. And, we've had hard times, definitely, and I definitely wanted to throw in the towel a few times. But that's reality, and he's really supportive of my crazy ideas. He didn't like when I go to Afghanistan and text home in the middle of the night and yeah, that roadside bomb wasn't near me. I mean, I really had to do this. And it's not cool. Yeah, I should be starting to think about, actually, some of you were Hugh, and one other friend of ours challenged me hard onto why I kept going back to Afghanistan and what I was doing. And I kept going until December 2016 when I stopped going. And that's a whole other story. But wasn't near a bomb, but it was not comfortable anymore. So, speaking of bombs, risk, okay. So I love risk. And honestly, this is why Joyce, I think, really asked me to speak, because I kind of get excited about it. And risk is a good thing. Risk is, you don't have to be going to Afghanistan. But that risk of calling the HR department and just saying, can you stop taking money out from my 401k and put it into a savings, that was a risk. I mean, going to graduate school with I had every right not to go because I was a single mom, and I had to put myself through graduate school because it was at Harvard, they don't do part-time. And this is the catch. I was going to the Kennedy School for Public Administration. Because I was coming from the private sector and I made a little too much money, which wasn't really a lot of money, I didn't qualify for anything, nothing. So I had to go into complete debt and take on all these loans and everything. So that was the catch. So I had all these reasons not to do it. But if I hadn't done that, I would have never traveled to all these great places and met all these amazing people and been inspired by all this great work. I would have never done that just because I was nervous and wanted to stay safe. So risk is a big part of adventure, a big part of growth. You're going to fail. Like going to that last firm I was with, I went there, I failed. I failed because I didn't love what I was doing. That's okay. When I resigned, that's another risk, to resign when I didn't have another job. That one I don't think my husband really agreed with, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And that's the only time I've ever really done that. And that's a risk. But I'm learning so much about myself now, and I feel like it's a better spot for me. So no one likes feeling uncomfortable, but it's a part of growth. It's a part of learning. It's a part of moving on. I could give you 100 other reasons where I took risks, especially when I was a young adult, well, even younger than that, and I'm sure my parents didn't really like the things that I was doing. Just like, apple doesn't fall far from the tree when it comes to some of your children. But anyway, but he's good. He's living in New York now, having a great time. He's doing a great job. E is for kind of explore, evolve, educate yourself. I am a continuous learner. I love to learn things. I love to meet new people. I love to read things. So on your start list, this is the easiest one of all on your to-do list in the next 100 days. It's like, just even like, take a webinar. There's so many free things out there. Like, I wanted to learn about impact investing because I didn't understand it enough, which I still don't understand it, but I still tried to learn about it. So I just did a webinar for $12. I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. But I had Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's, the honeybee, I had Bert, Ben, and somebody else right there in front of me. It was a live webinar. It's like, for $12. So you can learn so many new things. It definitely expanded my way of thinking about what they were thinking about. And that's what I was thinking, like, you can continuously learn, evolve, talk to people you wouldn't normally talk to. I mean, again, when I was in Afghanistan, it's clearly a Muslim country, learned a lot about Islam. And the Afghan people are amazing, gentle, kind souls. Not everybody's this whack job extremist, just like here in the United States. They're not all whack job extremists on the left and right. They're beautiful, wonderful people. They prayed 6 times a day, which, by the way, if you can stop 6 times a day and take 6 minutes to even meditate, wouldn't we be a much happier society? I mean, think about it. There's so much you can learn from other people just by being open-minded and exploring and educating. So I definitely am a curious bird. Walt Disney said, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity leads us down new pathways. It's true. So I suggest get curious, go learn things, because it's really cool. So that was E. So T is for thinking positively. And this one, I think, is the hardest person you need to convince to think positively is you about yourself. Because there's so much self-doubt in our lives. Like I was saying before, not all confident women are confident. It's true. I mean, I have doubted myself around every turn. And part of it's stupidity, but I just keep moving forward, and you just have to do it. And then pick a dream or a goal big enough that it's like, I really want to, it doesn't have to be career. Again, it can be just something that you want to achieve, whether it's a chair of a board that you're on, a nonprofit board or something like that. It's great. Just pick what it is that you want to do. And I love this one. Surround yourself with positive people who want to be obnoxiously positive and impose positivity on you. And just ditch the negative people, because they have no use in my life, absolutely none. And I really have no tolerance. I'm like, just stop and go away. I just can't deal with your gossip, your complaining, whatever it is. I can't deal with it. You get enough of it on TV and all this stuff. I can't do it. And then surround yourself with people who are going to align their values, that have the same values as you do, to move forward, because that's how you're going to get accomplished. So that's one thing. And I have lots of examples for all these, but I'm not going to go into that now, because we'll chat afterwards. Courage, not liquid courage, which was what I had the glass of wine was for when I stood up here before. But yeah, the real challenge comes from getting knocked down. You know that song by Thubba Wumper or Tub Thumper, I get knocked down and I get up again? That's so me. And that is true. It's the real challenge of growth comes when you get knocked down. It takes courage to act, to just start, to pick up the phone, change the 401k designation, sign up for that webinar, whatever it is. It just do it. It just takes courage to start over. And then sometimes you got to do it again and again and again. And when you're self-doubting yourself, it's not easy, it's hard, but you just have to pick yourself up and find one little thing that's going to move you forward. It's just getting closer to the goal tomorrow than you were today. Don't stress about having to get there. And don't worry about what everybody else is saying. That was another thing I had to get over. I just had to stop worrying. I love this quote. Actually, when I was at Kripalu, I did this full moon meditation, because it happened to be a super full moon the day I was there. So we did this really cool full moon meditation, which was in the middle of the day, so we didn't see the moon, but that's okay. She said this, and she goes, you don't need to push the river downstream all the time. Sometimes you just need to jump in. I was like, oh, I like that idea, because I'm such a fighter. I'm like, and for me, my biggest challenge these days has been just being vulnerable, because I've always felt like I've had to be the strong one, to push. But this is very courageous for me to try to be vulnerable and trust other people and just go with it and not have all the answers. And so for me, it is very courageous to just, if you're one of those control freaks, kind of like me, sometimes you just need to jump in the river and let it take you, downstream and see where it goes. And that's kind of the fun about life. And I've been doing that right now. I'm just jumped in like, I've got to figure it out, and I'm just taking it all in. So courage is a big dose of what you need to move forward. It was really hard for me to get divorced. Really hard. I don't know if anybody's been divorced, but it's not easy, because you've made this big commitment, and you want to keep sticking with it. You self-doubt, that always comes in. But that was a big step for me, and both of us were better off once that happened. We're very good friends right now. And I'm just, for embarrassment's sake, this is my ex's wife, and I love her so much. Oh my God. In fact, my son, I was with him the other day, he was telling his friends, like, I have 2 moms. I'm like, honey, you're sounding a little progressive now. But he really, I could not raise such a great kid without that woman in my life. No, seriously. So I'm going to cry, Andy. No, she's amazing. But it takes courage, and good things happen. Like, I knew Andy before, so I actually went to her wedding, to her first husband, and she came to mine. We won't go there. No, but the point is if you don't have courage, really good things do happen. So I'm grateful for Andy in my life and in Sammy's life. And finally, it's hard. I'm not going to stand up here and say it was easy. It was also really hard getting divorced and quitting jobs and landing in Kandahar thinking you should have been Herat, and texting home and telling your people you're really not, and almost getting kidnapped and not getting kidnapped, and so it's hard. But I couldn't have all those experiences and live such a full life without it being hard work. And the struggles, the pain, all of that is what makes you stronger. And that's what my husband and I laugh about now. It's like, yeah, that would have killed us, but we're strong now. It's like we're doing really great. And that's really the thing that, finding your purpose, keeping going, and that's kind of the biggest. So that's the H. And I won't have you do this now, because I think it'd be fun to have more conversation. But I do encourage you on here. Oh, I did leave off that. I gave you some references for some of my favorite books and things to do that have just helped me explore and educate myself. I didn't put all the webinar specifics that I like about sustainable development, because you guys might not be into that. So, but go find your own. That's one thing. And then also, there's a letter here, and this was something somebody else worked with me on. If you could, in 1 year from now, so on March 28th, 2020, you don't have to do it now, but maybe tomorrow, because you'll be inspired by this fabulous talk and you want to go home and do it. Go write yourself a letter and think about your dashboard of where you are today, and go fill out all 4 of those dashboards. And with the health one, it's body, mind, spirit. It's not just your physical health. And think about, in 1 year from today, if you were writing yourself a letter a year from today, and you say, I'm so proud of you, you've done X, Y, and Z to fill your tank, what would you write in there? I got to tell you, I did that once, probably about 8 years ago, with one of these executive coach people, when I was kind of thinking about leaving MSH and Management Sciences for Health. And it was a really powerful tool. And then I found that letter like 3 years later, because I have this little notebook I always keep in my car. It's like my journal. I'm sure the kids go through it, but whatever. Enlightening. And it was really interesting to see what I had and had not accomplished in that year. And that's okay. You're not going to accomplish everything. But it's really interesting. It's a point in time when you say, by this time next year, I will have done X. See where you go. Jump in the river, it's a journey. Honestly, it's not a ladder. Stop climbing ladders. I hate ladders. Kick them out from underneath people. But, dear me, I'm so proud of you because X. And that's what I hope that you'll be able to do with this letter, some quiet time in a coffee shop, and Thank you. I appreciate that. So that's it. But I'm curious to see what you got. Any thoughts you guys have or questions?
One thing, if people ask questions, if you wouldn't
I'll
mind
repeat
repeating
them.
the questions so that.
Sure. So Joyce just told me, so for the kid, would I repeat the questions for people? Sure. Any that can be about anything. Doesn't have to be about stretch. It could be whatever.
Have you considered being an inspirational speaker?
No. No.
Not at all?
No, I don't know. It's
Yes,
funny.
yes.
Oh, sorry. I was asked if I would be interested in being an inspirational speaker. It's funny, and this is something you guys probably, it's like, I feel so normal, like all of you. I don't really consider myself, I've gone to weird places, yes, but we're all pretty normal. So I feel weird telling people that my way is, when I was at Kripalu, again, this is a couple weeks ago, so I'm looking through, I'm like, God, there are all these self-help books, like 7 principles for doing X, 5 ways to do that. And the reality is it's your own journey. There's no one way to do anything. So I guess if I could offer up like my thoughts, and if somebody picks up on one thing I said, then that's cool. But it's not like a formula. And so that's why I think a lot of these inspirational speakers are formulaic. But thank you for asking, Andy. Casey.
Floating down the river now?
I am floating down, but holding a mirror at the same time on my back. Nose up, toes up, eyes up, breathe. If anybody's been whitewater rafting, if you fall into those rapids, that's what they tell you. Nose up, toes up, eyes up, breathe. Because if your toes are down, you're going to hit a stick that's below surface, and that rapid is going to just push you under. So they want you to lie on your back and float with your toes up. So I kind of envision myself like that, holding a mirror. Because I'm really trying to look inside. I'm journaling. Mel Robbins, I don't know if people have heard of Mel Robbins. She's got this 5-second rule. She offers some quick tips on how to journal. It's like questions to ask yourself. Because I couldn't just sit down with a journal and just write. I wasn't good at that. So finally, I found somebody who gave me questions I should be asking myself. So that's what I'm doing right now, Case. I'm floating down the river, but with a mirror in my hand. Yeah. Yeah. Mel Robbins. It's in the resources section. Yeah. Yeah. She's from the Boston area. Yeah.
Would you say you're more of, like when you're taking those turns and you're making adjustments, are you more of somebody who waits to see what comes in your path, or do you seek it out? You seek something out?
Yeah. So the question was, when I'm making the lefts and rights and the turns, do I wait to see what comes, or do I seek it out? That's a great question, because I do think that a lot of the opportunities that presented themselves to me were presented to me. Not like for example, when I went to Nicaragua was the first country I went to. And then I came back and I happened to be dating the guy who taught a professor at Harvard. He's like, oh, you should go. I'm like, oh, well, all right. I wasn't looking to go there, but it was a great opportunity. I think I get more trouble when I actually do go. It's like looking for your next husband, It's like I actually feel like you start creating these false ideas about what it should be. So I've probably succeeded more when the opportunities have presented themselves to me. But I've gotten myself into the situation where they could present themselves to me because I've been open to trying new things, if that makes sense. Joyce?
I
Sorry.
wanted to ask you about the award that you accepted. Can you tell me?
Sure. So I was asked about the award that I just accepted. I accepted an award for the credit and the hard work that so many other people did. I'm the chair of the board of an organization called the Coffee Trust, and we do work in Guatemala, in the Western Highlands of Guatemala, in Ixil, which is where all the Maya. Actually, those last pictures that you saw with all the colorful women, that's in Guatemala, so that's in the Western Highlands. It's an 8-hour drive from Guatemala City, and it's where the coffee growing. One of the coffee growing regions of Guatemala is, and these people are amazing. They make $2 a day, maybe, if they're lucky. And a couple years ago, if you guys have rhododendron plants, you know how they get the black spots all over them, and that the flowers don't come out or anything like that. Well, that happened because of climate change. Not get political here, but it is because of climate change. The weather has warmed up in these high mountainous regions in Guatemala and Central America, which means that these trees have all gotten rust. So a lot of these farmers lost 80% of their crop, and which is 80% of your income gone. Now they don't have lots of other jobs to go to. So the Coffee Trust worked with the local cooperative there, which was a fair trade organic cooperative, on trying to help rebuild the quality of the coffee. And so there was the team on the ground in Guatemala that really was the ones doing that. They also, some of the women were laid off from the processing facility where they process the coffees. I think you saw the women picking through the beans. And 20 of those women started their own microcredit organization and savings and loan. So today, and we were we helped fund it, we helped get it going. And now there are now 3,000 women as part of that savings and loan program. They have $700,000 in a collective savings fund to loan out in the Western Highlands. It is the largest financial institution run by Maya women for the poor in that region. And that's why I'm like, I'm just the board chair. I've never worked in Guatemala. I just raised money for them, and I just accepted this award at the National Coffee Association on their behalf. But those are the types of things where it's just so powerful what other people are doing when you give them the tools to grow. We're strengthening their coffee community, not coming in with all these grand ideas of the way we think it should be run, but really listening to the people in the Western Highlands. And I will say this, given something people don't know about, the price of coffee right now for farmers is so low, it's below production. It's the worst it's been in 20 years. And so the 90% of the families coming to the border and trying to get into the United States right now are from Guatemala. They're not these individual guys trying to come get work. These are families coming to the borders now because their children are starving, literally. So if the coffee prices, first they had Roya, which is the rust. Now the coffee prices are so low, they can't produce anything. So their family's starving. So ask yourself, what would you do? If your kids were starving, wouldn't you do anything to help them? And that's the situation that they're in. And these are the coffee farmers that we work with. They're abandoning their crops. Apparently there's a line to Miami. They're not coming over the Mexican border. They're all flying in through Miami somehow. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're getting there. And so those are the types of people that we work with there. And thank you for asking that. I'm very passionate about them. But they're an amazing group of people. And I just accepted the award because the founder couldn't be there. But it was fun.
I have a follow-up question. So is this something that you get paid for?
No.
Volunteer?
No.
I have this. And you
The question was, do I get paid to do this work? Yeah.
And you can repeat this too for me. People who do a lot of giving, things just kind of fall in their way.
They just kind of what?
When people do a lot of giving in
Yeah.
their lives, which I know you,
Yeah.
things happen for them. The universe opens for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So Joyce said when people do a lot of giving, the world opens to them. I think in the religious community they call it tithing, and that the belief is that good things will come back to you. I'm not super religious, highly spiritual, not super religious. I just like to help people. And I agree, though, that I truly enjoy and love it. Fills my circle with helping folks like that, and here in the U.S. and abroad. So it's not, I'm a globalist. I believe that we're all connected. We buy our coffee from them. I got a right, I have to help. So it's just one of those things that I agree, it makes me a better, fuller person because of that. It certainly opens my eyes and educates me. I'm also on the board of the Concord Carlisle Community Chest, which is another amazing organization who basically raises money from the community. And you wouldn't think that Concord and Carlisle need help, but it really does. I mean, we give out probably $600,000 a year to local organizations, and that's not enough. I mean, they're all just asking for a little bit, and these are people with mental health issues, addiction issues, violence issues, aging issues, English as a first language, second language issue. I mean, there are all sorts of people who have needs right here in our backyard. So we have neighbors helping neighbors. It's a really, I'm sure you all have either a United Way or a community chest in your community. So I encourage you to get involved. Even volunteering, you don't have to be a fundraiser. You don't have to give money. If you don't have the money, just give your time. That's so huge, so huge. Anything? Yeah, sorry.
So I have to ask.
Sure.
You made me cringe when you said you cashed in your 401k.
Oh, no, I didn't cash it in. I just stopped funding it and then redirected it.
So then you were in a lot of debt and you were in your 30s? Were you good?
I
now?
paid off. So I unfortunately met my husband at Harvard, so we had a very expensive dating program. My second husband, David, so we just finished paying off our student loans from Harvard when my son Sam went to college, and yeah, wasn't that good? That was good. 15 years later. So I did the 15-year program though. The interest rates were so low, the money was so cheap to pay back. I could have paid it off faster, but we chose just to take our time on it. But yeah, no, but it was between the two of us over it was a 1-year program, and it was like $70,000 for me. So the cool thing was, this was the cool thing. I got great grades apparently at Harvard, which means graduate school. It's not the same as undergrad. And I qualified for this grant program where they just said, oh, here, they're going to pay off 10. I'm like, this is so cool. They just pay off some of your debt, which was a really neat thing. So that did help a bit. That was helpful. It certainly didn't help enough, but it was helpful. Yeah.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for
No, but you guys, honestly, I am normal. I really am normal. And I am. And these guys can attest to that because they've been around for a long time. So,
But you
Yeah.
can be amazing and normal at the same time.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
My son went to school with Meryl Streep's kids,
Ah.
and she got up and did the talk like this, and all she was like, I just want to be that person with the camera and be one of you. I am one of you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you can understand, I think, what people who do, like at the Boston Marathon bombing, and the people who all ran in and helped when, they got interviewed afterwards, and like, I'm not a hero, I'm just a normal person. And I think that's a great testament to the goodness in people, just everyone, and that it's there. As you don't have to be some superhero to do good things, and we need to recognize that more in people, for sure. Or we're all superheroes, yeah. I don't like to set expectations that high. I'm sure to fail. Anyway, thank you so much. Happy to.